So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 82 of our F1 Manager Save. Now, if you didn't watch the last episode, we had a decent day at the Circuit Paul Ricard in France. We got a 2-3 podium, double podium for Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher really coming of age at the moment and getting some decent points for the team, which is helping out in the constructors massively. As you can see, Max Verstappen won that race and Charles Leclerc was in fourth. The Red Bulls are putting up a pretty stern fight, and we can see that in the constructor standings. This is a battle that's going to go to the very, very end. There's just 1 point between us and Red Bull in the constructors. Meanwhile, in the drivers, it's looking a bit more comfortable. Lando Norris has got a sizable gap on Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen is catching his teammate at some rate, it must be said, and Mick Schumacher is now settled nicely in P4 ahead of the two McLaren drivers. This weekend we head to the Hungaroring. Lots of corners on this circuit. It's quite a slow circuit, 70 laps around here. The expected strategy is a one-stop from medium onto hard, although a two-stop is appropriate as well, using all three tyre compounds. If there's some weather, that could cause some issues as well. We are now waiting for the next ATR period in terms of the calendar to get some more developments on the go. If we have a look by the end of this week, we will be getting some more car developments, and the low-speed corner is where we are going to be focusing, because if we have a quick look at the car analysis on the right-hand side, we are not the best in low-speed corners, which could be a real issue for us here this weekend. But that all said, I'm going to get through the practice sessions and we'll see you in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix. So here we go then, final laps in Q3. Lando Norris, is he in the fight for pole position? Esteban Ocon has put in a fantastic lap. He's currently sat in P2 in the Lotus Renault. Lando Norris was yellow through the first sector, green through the second. Can Lando Norris put himself onto the front row? He can put himself ahead of Esteban Ocon, but what about that man, Mick Schumacher? He's not been particularly quick round here all weekend. Will Mick Schumacher manage to bump himself up the order a little bit? He won't. Mick Schumacher will be in P10, which may mean that we have to really look at the strategy with Mick and see if we can do something a little different. But Max Verstappen, we said before, he's been in imperious form. He certainly is at the moment. He's on pole for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando Norris alongside him in P2. Esteban Ocon, probably the performance of the day, in P3 in the Lotus Renault.
Welcome to race day. And before we get down to it, last minute checks are being made.
We saw a solid qualifying performance from Ferrari, and they're sure to have their chance to push even further during the race. It was a pleasure to watch Red Bull's excellent performance during qualifying. Their drivers will now be looking ahead to the race itself and hoping to capitalize. And the weather is sunny here today, apart from a few clouds. Let's hope they remain scattered on the horizon.
And we're just over 300 kilometers away from the conclusion of this Hungarian Grand Prix. And each and every one of them is sure to be thrilling.
Right guys, so we are going to split the strategy. Lando Norris starting in P2. He's going to be starting on the mediums, then going on to the hard compound tyre. Basically the standard strategy. Mick Schumacher, we're going to try the two-stop with him. He's going to start on the softs, then go on to the mediums, then go on to the hards. He's going to use all three tyre compounds this afternoon. We're not expecting any rain, as Karul mentioned in the intro. So different strategies, different positions on the grid. Going to be an interesting one. Let's get to 5 red lights at the Hungarian Grand Prix.
This is it. The Hungarian Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go.
And away we go, and straight away we're looking at Lando Norris, who looks like he's got a decent start off the line. He looks like he may have Max Verstappen. He has got the inside line into turn 1, and inside line he's going to just about overtake Max Verstappen. Is he? Both of them are side by side as we come through turn 1. Verstappen's had a lot of pace all weekend. Norris in P1 now, Verstappen P2. Can Lando Norris manage to hold on to P1? Verstappen bites back with him. Esteban Ocon showing a keen interest behind as well. But Lando Norris has not had a bad start at all here. Mick Schumacher up to P8 as well. We'll have a little check-in on Mick Schumacher in a little while. But Lando Norris is side by side. Him and Max Verstappen, two of the title protagonists, have been side by side all the way through this first lap. It's been absolute excellent, clean racing from both of them. But Lando Norris looks like he might just have got the job done. Let's have a little look. He seems to have. Max Verstappen will ride on board from Max's point of view, Lando Norris has got the job done on lap 1. Lando Norris now leads the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's Norris from Verstappen, Ocon in P3s on the soft compound. The alternative strategies on used soft compound tyres. Charles Leclerc in P4. Guan Yu Zhou, that Lotus Renault, looking particularly quick at the moment in P5. Perez P6, Russell P7. Then we've got Mick Schumacher on the soft compound tyres in P8. And he has got the pace, Mick Schumacher, I would suggest, to get past another couple of these cars. He's going to be in the mix towards the end. Don't write off Mick Schumacher as he's languishing down in P8 at this moment in time. Then comes Valtteri Bottas in P9 and Kevin Magnussen, Alexander Albon, the two Audis, running 10 and 11 at this moment in time. Carlos Sainz and Gasly, it's not been Aston Martin's season in 12th and 14th. So the end of lap 1, coming on to lap 2, Lando Norris leads the Hungarian Grand Prix. You join us back on lap 12 in this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris are just trading places at the front at this moment in time. Lando Norris, I've got to say, he's doing quite a decent job. I don't think we've got the best car this weekend. The car analysis before showed that this circuit is not one that particularly suits us. But Lando Norris is tagging onto the back of Max Verstappen beautifully at this moment in time. Esteban Ocon now struggling in the Lotus Renault to keep pace with these two guys as his tyres are starting to die off. Charles Leclerc in P4, I'm sure, wants to get on with it and get past Esteban Ocon. Then we've got a gap to Guan Yu Zhou and Sergio Perez. Kevin Magnussen's in P7 in the Audi, doing rather well at this moment in time. Mick Schumacher in P8, not managing to use his tyres probably as much as he wanted to. There's been a spin in Sector 1, and we're going to have a little look at what's happened here, because that looked like it were in front of Mick Schumacher. I think it was Kevin Magnussen. Let's have a little look at this. It was Kevin Magnussen. So Mick Schumacher gains a place there as Kevin Magnussen just spins it at the final corner. Gets a little throttle happy on the throttle, obviously, and then goes and smashes his front wing off. Has that caused him to retire from the Grand Prix? It hasn't. He's now back on circuit, but he's going to have to come in for a wing change. Mick Schumacher then promoted up to P17. We are going to be looking, obviously, Mick's on this two-stop strategy. Mick's going to be coming in around lap 19, lap 20. So we're going to be looking at what gap we need to get him out into some clean air and use the tyres. But it's a different game for Lando Norris. Really, he's just got to stick with Max Verstappen, and hopefully the time will come. Lap 13. We have got some pit stops. Perez, Ocon, a couple of guys into the pits. Obviously on the two-stop strategy, it's the same as Mick. They are pitting already. They were on new soft compound tyres to start the Grand Prix. We've got a fair few cars coming into the box and coming out. Gasly out onto a set of hard compound tyres as well once he's got this stop done. So we're doing the two-stop a little different. We're going onto the mediums in this middle stint. I think that's going to benefit us as we go towards the end, and then if there is a safety car, we can bang on those hards. That's something I'm very keen on looking at. If we have a look at the gap at the minute, we expect a 20-second gap is needed. Looking at Mick Schumacher, 32, he would come out in front of Bottas behind Perez on a faster tyre. So in a couple of laps' time, Mick Schumacher could be in a very, very solid position. Another man who's in a very solid position is Lando Norris. Just once again, just tagging onto the back of Max Verstappen. Leclerc, 3.3 seconds back. But Mick Schumacher, will the strategy pay dividends today? I believe it possibly could. Lap 17. And on lap 20, in comes Mick Schumacher for his pit stop. Now, I'm expecting this to work out very well. I think we're going to get him into a nice gap, providing we don't have any mishaps in the pit stop stages. So let's have a look here. Our guy's primed and ready to go. He's onto the medium compound of tyre. Is Mick Schumacher, and it's a 2.38 second stop. It's a decent stop from the team there. Mick Schumacher, I'm expecting him to be out behind Yuki Tsunoda and in front of Valtteri Bottas. Yuki Tsunoda's coming down the pit straight now. There he goes. But he's in a nice bit of clean air there behind Valtteri Bottas. If we can catch up now to Perez, he's got the tyres to use. Mick Schumacher, the time is now for him to get his foot down and start making some moves in this Grand Prix. He's got a 3-second gap to Yuki Tsunoda in front of him, but I'm sure he will catch that on these tyres. And like I said, Verstappen still leading. Gap to Leclerc now, 4.5 seconds. It's not going Charles Leclerc's way at this moment in time. Couple of overtakes to show you here. We've got Lando Norris into turn 1 having a little battle with Max Verstappen, just letting him know he's there, and he got the DRS as well down at the following straight to get into P1. Beautifully done by him, but a very important overtake for Mick Schumacher. You will now see that Yuki Tsunoda is behind Mick Schumacher. I'm hoping we're going to get a replay flash up in a moment, but Mick Schumacher did just get past Yuki Tsunoda, and he's now chasing down Sergio Perez, who is on the hard compounder tyre. Remember, we've got a lot of guys in front of Mick still yet to pit. This could be a very important phase of the Grand Prix for Mick Schumacher. If we have a look at the last lap times, 1:20.2 for Mick Schumacher, a 1:20.1 for Lando Norris, who's just got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on the medium compounder tyres. Obviously, that tyre is suiting our Ferrari. Lando Norris pit window is in 4 laps, so we've got about lap 30 when we shall see Lando Norris coming into the box. Lap 23. Lap 29, Pierre Gasly. We saw this a few times when we were managing him and we were team principal, where he's just locked up on the hard compound tyre. So he's lost a few positions there. That doesn't affect our drivers at all. But what does affect our drivers is Mick Schumacher doing his absolute utmost to get past Sebastian Vettel. He's going to get the DRS, I believe, now down this back straight. Is he isn't? Sebastian Vettel's going to get it. But Mick Schumacher on those tyres has been lapping very, very well at this moment. He's been in the low 120s, which is where he needed to be when the pace setters Lando and Verstappen have been in the 121s. So Mick Schumacher has been gaining some significant time at this moment, and it's looking very, very positive for Mick at this moment in time. Lando Norris has got another couple of laps. Maybe he might come in next lap. We're just going to analyse the gap to him now. But Mick Schumacher up into the points again, P10. We're riding on board with Lando Norris. Max Verstappen also comes into the pits. I think this is going to be a race that's won in the last couple of laps, if I'm being totally honest. Mick Schumacher is in a P6 at this moment in time. If we have a look, he's really caught up now to Charles Leclerc. He's on the medium compounder tyre. We'll come to that in a moment, but let's have a look at what happens with the Ferrari here. That Red Bull of last year getting the better pit box is really not helping us in these situations, but both the leaders are into the pits. Let's just keep a keen eye on the guys coming down the main straight. Verstappen is out, as is Lando Norris. Checo Perez isn't anywhere to be seen. So Lando Norris back in the DRS, hopefully, of Max Verstappen. In fact, I think he's going to have to use a bit of ERS here to catch back up with Max and get back into that DRS. This could be absolutely crucial for us. Meanwhile, Mick Schumacher, just 1.7 now, the gap to Charles Leclerc, who's getting held up by a slow Sergio Perez. And get back in DRS he did. Lando Norris, new fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Had to use a bit of ERS to get there. But Lando Norris, great job from him. Oh, we're expecting Esteban Ocon. Let's have a look at Esteban Ocon. He's on the hard compound tyres at this moment in time. So that two-stop paying dividends for Esteban Ocon. He might just hold these two guys up, but we need to make sure we get past when Lando Norris does. Meanwhile, Mick Schumacher is now on the back of Sergio Perez, and he needs to get past him to chase on to Charles Leclerc. That's something that he's got to bear in mind. So there's little battles happening all over the track here. But as we come on to lap 33, just coming up to the halfway point in this Grand Prix, it's Ocon from Verstappen, Norris P3, then Leclerc, Perez, Schumacher, Joe, Ricciardo, and then the two Mercedes in P9 and 10 who are looking like they're battling at this moment in time. But net P1 is Max Verstappen at the moment. Lap 39, we have a look at Mick Schumacher using a little bit of ERS as well as the DRS on Checo Perez, who just fell out of range of Charles Leclerc's DRS. So Mick Schumacher making some decent moves once again here. He got another bout of DRS down this straight to catch him up with Charles Leclerc. I believe Charles Leclerc is also on the two-stop as well. They enjoyed that in the Ferrari garage, as we did here. But yeah, Mick Schumacher now on the back of Charles Leclerc. This is an interesting one, what we can do from here. I would suggest that we possibly in the fight with Charles Leclerc to beat him today. That could be massively important. Leclerc's on the hards, he's going to be on the mediums at the end, whereas obviously we're on the mediums now, we're going to be on the hards at the end. Be interesting to see which way around it all pays dividends, but at this moment in time, Mick Schumacher doing very, very well. Lando Norris just hanging on to the back of Max Verstappen. I think it's going to come down to the last few laps between these two, and when Lando Norris decides that it's time to bolt, but we haven't got a lot of ERS to be using as well, something else to know. Lap 39. We've got Mick Schumacher on lap 43 coming into the box, and that's quite handy that Stroll's just done that, because that was the car I was watching to try and get Mick Schumacher out in front of. Lando Norris just complaining a bit of tyres overheating, and it looks like Max Verstappen has managed to get away from Lando Norris. There hasn't been a mistake there. But Max Verstappen at the moment just seems to be pushing on a little bit, whereas Lando Norris can't seem to quite keep the pace. We are just going to tell him to just push on the fuel a little bit. But let's have a look where Mick Schumacher is going to come out here. He comes out behind Sainz, but in a nice gap. So Mick Schumacher now, it really is hammer time to try and make up this time to Charles Leclerc, and then he's going to have the better tyres. Well, maybe he's going to have the harder wearing tyres towards the end of this Grand Prix. But the disappointing thing is Max Verstappen again running away with this. 1.8 seconds now, gap to Verstappen. Lap 46, Lando Norris was given the hurry up and said, right, you've got to get back in DRS here if we're going to stand any chance in this Grand Prix. He's just banged in the new fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and he's now back up with Max Verstappen in P2 as we're just charging a little bit of DRS at the moment with him. Mick Schumacher's pit, he's going to get past Carlos Sainz in a moment. I'm presuming we'll ride on board with Mick Schumacher down this start-finish straight, ducking left and right, but he should, with the DRS, manage to get past Carlos Sainz in that Aston Martin. And to get past him, he certainly does. The Aston Martin left for dead there. Mick Schumacher now up into P10. No more pit stops for Mick Schumacher, and he's got plenty of ERS to use should he need it. Lando Norris now back up with Max Verstappen. A full rundown of the top 10 is Verstappen in P1. We've got Lando Norris P2, Esteban Ocon still doing very, very well in P3. Leclerc P4, Gio P5, Perez, Ricciardo, Russell, Bottas and Mick Schumacher in P10. We have got a couple of guys though that have got to stop again. Perez being one, I believe Bottas and Ocon have both got to stop again. So where Mick Schumacher ends up, who knows? Lap 47. Right, we are getting a few guys into the pit lane. Esteban Ocon is one of them, as is Sergio Perez. Mick Schumacher as well is just now looking at where he's going to finish up here. He's got one Mercedes in front of him. Will he manage to jump Sergio Perez? I believe he will. He's jumped Sergio Perez, although Sergio Perez will now have the better, quicker tyres. I believe Perez is onto the mediums, is that correct? He is. So he's onto the medium compound tyre, whereas Mick Schumacher on the hard. Carlos Sainz is making this very, very hard work for us in this Aston Martin, but we're doing our absolute utmost to try and get away from Perez. If we have a look at the gap from Leclerc now, Leclerc 15 seconds. I think Leclerc is going to come out in front of Mick, which is a little bit of a disappointment, but there is a good, decent point scoring position here for Mick Schumacher. We'll have a look when Charles Leclerc comes in. Lap 55, you join us. Mick Schumacher now up to P7. It's been a very, very impressive performance from Mick Schumacher, it must be said here, because he's managed to get past George Russell. We are just going to save a little bit of fuel again now. But he had a very difficult time getting past Sainz and Russell. He's now dispatched both of them in front of him. He's still got Danny Ricciardo, who he's going to come out in front of. And also, Guan Yu Zhou, I believe, may be pitting again. Only may be pitting again, but he may also stay out. So, something to bear in mind there. The guys at the front look like they're settled in now. It's P3 and P1 for Red Bull in the constructors. So, Mick Schumacher, if he can get P6, it's not ideal, but it's better than I actually thought we were going to do this weekend. Lando Norris is still on to win this Grand Prix, I believe. I still think we can do this. We've just got to make sure we keep on the back of Max Verstappen, and then we're going to have a real push towards the end as we get to the final few laps. Lap 56 is Verstappen from Norris. And then the disaster has happened. Mick Schumacher, we've been talking him up, has locked up into that corner. It's not brought out a safety car, but Mick Schumacher really not helping himself there. He's still in P7. What we are going to do is just get him in for another pit stop now. We'll get him onto a set of soft compound tyres. Get his wing done. And then Mick will be back out. But Lando Norris, the fight is all his now. We've managed to charge up a little bit more ERS as well. I am aware that we are going to be coming up to some bike markers very shortly, and I wouldn't mind being the person in front when we do that, because as we've seen in previous races, Max Verstappen can get quite fortunate with the bike markers. So lap 6 there, Mick Schumacher is in. New front wing, I hope. It's quite a long pit stop. He is in for a new front wing. So that's Mick Schumacher out. He's going to be in P11. I think that's the end of his points chances today. So it all rests, as it has done so often this season, on Lando Norris. Lap 60. Lap 65, and we're starting to see it happen again. Max Verstappen has just managed to get back past Lando Norris at the right time, and we've got all these bike markers now that we need to dispatch, and we're going to ride on board with Lando Norris, because straight away we could have an issue with this Haas. We haven't. The Haas has stayed out of the way pretty well, to be fair to it. And now Max Verstappen is, what, 7-8 tenths away. We need to ensure that we stay within range of Max Verstappen. We're going to keep a close eye on this one. We've got a couple more more cars, I believe, we have a look to negotiate. It looks like it's for, yeah, just Pierre Gasly, and then it's going to be a clear battle to the end. So as long as our old driver doesn't do us any really unjust favours here, we may be okay to just stay in this DRS range. And like I say, it's a big push to the finish. One other little thing to know, Max Verstappen's tyres are in much better nick than ours at this moment in time, lap 66. Is this going to be the overtake that wins Lando Norris the Grand Prix? Lap 67, coming on to 68. He's just managed to get Max Verstappen. Obviously gets that double helping of DRS. My main thoughts are about Pierre Gasly in front now. Can we get past Pierre Gasly and maybe causes a little bit of an issue for Max Verstappen? Where is Pierre Gasly? Let's just have a little look at him here. He's got our two cars behind him there. Lap 68. We've got 3 more racing laps, including this one. Pierre Gasly could have a pivotal role to play in this. We have got some ERS saved up as well. Something else to know. So it all comes down to this last few laps. We'll come back very, very shortly. And so this is it. Once again, it comes down to these two fantastic drivers. It's Verstappen versus Norris for the win of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando Norris has got DRS. He's got a bit of ERS saved up as well, but he's not got as close to Max Verstappen as he possibly would have liked to going down that first DRS straight. Now he's looking left and right. Can Lando Norris get past Max Verstappen? He's going round the outside. Lando Norris round the outside of Max Verstappen. He's still using all the ERS he possibly can to get past the Dutchman. He's going to be told to deploy. And will Lando Norris manage to win and snatch the win off Max Verstappen here in Hungary? It's going to be a long old few kilometres to get round this circuit for this final lap. We watched it live, so we're not going to watch it again. But Lando Norris is using all the battery left in this Ferrari. The tyres are on 38%. The tyres are giving up a little bit, but Lando Norris is driving like he has so often this season, so supremely well. Pierre Gasly's not going to play a part this bike marker. He's still got battery in hand. Can Lando Norris ensure that he wins this? There is a bit of a drag down to the line. I'm hoping that as we come round this final corner, Lando Norris is going to be told to push on the fuel. We're taking every bit of account we can. But Lando Norris crosses the line and wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. What a performance that has been. And to be fair, Verstappen and Norris, these guys are pushing each other all the way this season. And it's been a pleasure to watch. Lando Norris takes another significant step on his way to his driver's title and our first driver's title as team principal. It's been a good day for Red Bull in the constructors. Mick Schumacher obviously struggling with that little crash that he had. But let's get to the podium celebrations because I think we've earned that one.
Lando Norris can be proud. What a fantastic performance from him. Everyone involved in Formula One dreams of seeing their driver up there on the podium.
A pleasure to watch, as always. Lando Norris wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Didn't get fastest lap. I believe Kevin Magnussen in the Audi got the fastest lap. Max Verstappen P2, Ocon again P3 in the Lotus Renault. Fantastic weekend for Esteban Ocon. Esti Beste doing very well, another podium. Charles Leclerc P4, Guan Yu Zhou P5 in the Lotus Renault. It's showing some pace. The two McLarens coming in one after another as they normally do. Danny Ricciardo and Checo Perez. Carlos Sainz drove very, very well, even from the highlights we saw of him against Mick Schumacher in P8. Russell and Bottas, the two Mercedes, rounding off the point scoring with Mick Schumacher in P11 after that error. Driver standings wise, Lando Norris extends his lead once again, 78 points now to Charles Leclerc, but Max Verstappen's catching Leclerc at a rate of knots. Mick Schumacher scoring no points, loses ground both in front of him and behind him. Constructor standings wise, it's changed hands. Red Bull now lead the constructor standings by 5 points to us. There's a long way to go, but we can't keep having these mistakes, and Mick Schumacher We need a little bit more, my friend. We've praised him recently. He needs to get back on his game in the next one. And it's on the next one. We'll see you. Have a fantastic weekend. And we'll see you then. Ta-ra.